Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. It's our first Capital Conversation in 2021. Thank you, Shashank, for taking the time to spend with us. So first, let me introduce Shashank to all of you. It's a long bio, but Shashank has told me to just say 3 lines about Shashank, which is very difficult, and it's not fair to do. Shashank is a pathologist, internal medicine expert, and also an endocrinologist. Shashank is a Padma Shri, one of India's leading endocrinologists. His education is from our city, Bombay, Grant College, KEM Hospital, and he's also a fellow from practically several major colleges and fellowships in the UK and the US. At the moment, he's a consulting endocrinologist, physician at Lilavati Bhatia Hospital, Apollo Sugar, and Joshi Clinic. So most importantly, when COVID struck, Shashank shifted gears and started focusing tremendously on his previous focus before he became a super endocrinologist, which was pathology, internal medicine, and experiences from the HIV/AIDS period back in the 90s. And today he's learned a lot, and he's played a very active role advising the government, both in Maharashtra, city of Bombay, and the ICMR. So he's going to share a lot of those experiences and learnings with us today. Let's start this.
So remember, vaccine is the answer to any infection. World eliminated smallpox through vaccines, polio through vaccines. And I think COVID also has its answers in vaccines because all other public health measures failed. Now, for one more year, you will have to still mask, but some people feel suffocated. I have asthma myself. Okay. If you tell me to mask, it's not at all easy. Okay. So I can tell you that for sure, that it's not easy to mask 24/7. But I'll still have to mask throughout 2021. What can vaccines do? Vaccines will offer protection. It may sometimes not necessarily allow you to get severe COVID or death. See, the first thing is to save lives. Second thing is to save us from moderate to severe COVID in the hospital. And third thing is to ensure that you get a mild disease or mimic a mild disease and you have antibodies to protect it. So I think what we are doing in India now is starting from healthcare workers from tomorrow morning, that is 16th. Okay, we are going to get a vaccines for the healthcare workers, COVID frontline warriors, and people above 50 without comorbidities and people below 50 with comorbidities. These are the vulnerable groups. This is 30 crore Indians. They are going to be offered vaccines. We have 2 vaccines being offered right away. One is the Covishield. Covishield is basically using a chimpanzee adenovector platform. So this is a virus which resides in chimpanzees. We are injecting that vector into the human being, and it carries like a coolie a spike protein. It's like a cover protein. See, this corona means crown of a king. So it has some spikes. It's like, you know, those porcupine spines. So that has been cut out and has impregnated on this white vector. This is being injected into our body intramuscularly, 2 doses, one after another. This was discovered at the Oxford University, and that will generate some antibody levels. Okay, now that is the first vaccine being given. Okay, it can cause pain here, it can cause a little flu-like reaction, and very rarely people think of these autoimmune disorders, which is why it has been experimented in UK, Brazil, South Africa, America, and now India. And Serum is the largest. See, India is the largest vaccine producer in the world. Yes. Half of the world vaccines are made in India. So it's an economic opportunity. So Serum Institute has made it. It's going to be given. They have done phase 2, phase 3 trials for India. It's immunogenic. That means it generates antibodies. Usually, first dose doesn't generate antibodies. When you take the first dose after day 12, first IgM response starts. Then when you take the second vaccine after 28 days, and usually we should take the second booster dose within 40 days. Okay, in UK, they are giving it later. Then you will get antibody development 14 days from there. So it will be after 45 days, it will offer some protection. So remember, safety of the vaccine, yes, it is safe. Is it effective? Well, not in everybody. For example, if you're an uncontrolled diabetic, if you have a cancer, it may not generate the antibodies to a critical threshold. The second vaccine is the ICMR. They identified and picked up, cultured the virus from India. They killed it Whatever is the killed vaccine, what they did is Bharat Biotech, Krishna Allah, who came from US, went back to India. In his company, they made another inactivated vaccine. It's called Covaxin. And the third company is Zydus Cadila in Ahmedabad. They did a DNA vaccine. So somebody has done an adenovector platform, somebody has done a killed vaccine, and somebody has done a DNA vaccine. These three vaccines were supposed to generate antibodies. They are in phase 3 clinical trials. Okay. In the US, however, the Pfizer and Moderna looked at efficacy, but you saw the spate of reactions. It can cause anaphylactic reactions. So you need to be in hospital when you give the vaccine. It can cause allergic reactions, and it can also cause some other side effects, which we don't know. But I feel they are also safe because US FDA is very strict. You know how paranoid they are. And some of us are very paranoid. So Sam, we have had these conversations. I think Pfizer, Moderna are good to go, but they are again based for the United States. How useful they will be for India, I wouldn't know, but it's likely that it will cover the virus. So the whole idea of vaccination is to protect. See, you have to choose between vaccine or the disease. Also, after you get the disease, within 3 months, you should take the vaccine to boost your immunity up. Because after the disease, you will get immunity which will last for 6 months. After 6 months, the antibody levels will go down. Yes. In the vaccines, it is likely that the antibodies will stay for 2 to 3 years. And in some people, even 6 years. And it will have robust T cells. And then, of course, day before yesterday, we saw the Johnson vaccine. But they can cause some reactions. But efficacy to efficacy, they may differ. And I think what is available, we should take. And the only thing which are unknowns in vaccines is when to take the second dose. I preferably take it from the same dose, and how effective it will be, and whether antibody level equates to a T cell immunity. So these are some unknowns. Yes. So if you have 60, 70, 80% of the population already having herd immunity, then it is safe for cohabitation and restart the economy. Now that's already happened in some parts of geographies of India, like say Dharavi, but that we can't leave it alone. Also remember, right now the numbers are coming down for India. So as the numbers come down, same thing happened exactly in September in UK. Yes. When the numbers come down, you are sowing the seeds for another mutation. It's a slowly mutating virus. And after 2-3 months, you can have a second peak. So if we don't vaccinate now, you are sowing the seeds for another surge, which might come somewhere in March, April, or May. That's what we want to prevent. Vaccines have always been a bundle of controversies all over the world for all diseases. But it is always better to vaccinate than not to vaccinate. And vaccines will always have side effects. We'll always have our paranoias. Tomorrow there's a vaccine. I'm still in my mental dilemma whether I should be taking the vaccine tomorrow or not. So all of us as human beings will have concerns. But I think we have to vaccinate because that's the way to go. In people who have comorbidities, it is all the more necessary to vaccinate. So if somebody has diabetes, somebody has heart disease, somebody has hypertension, somebody has cancer, vaccination is a must. Somebody is elderly, vaccination is a must. Because there we need to save lives. Yes. And that's very crucial. And that's very important for us to realize and importantly understand. I think two things happened. Our hospitals could not accommodate and admit every patient who had COVID positive. It only adapted to those people who were in the vulnerable group, who were moderate or severe COVID. And that was only 5 or 10%. So good thing about India was there was 85 to 95% recovery in India. That's not individual, that's in general. And that is because India has only 8% of its population, which is in the so-called, what you call the geriatric population. Unlike US, Europe, where people have died in nursing homes because at least 20-30% of their population is above 50 or 60. So US, Europe, Japan had to go into mini lockdowns even now as we talk. Of course, US is a different story, and Sam, God bless you, and you can stay as long as you want in California. But if you want to be safer, I think you should be in Mumbai. Okay, that's my advice to you once you get your vaccine on board. So I think India did very well because we had a smaller geriatric population. But that geriatric population, we suffered. So, for example, in Mumbai, mortality, and the reason the task force was formed by the chief minister and I was involved in it, his mortality was as high as 8-10%. And we have got it down now, case fatality rate of 1 or 2%. So obviously, we didn't know what we were doing. So we had to identify them early, not get them very late. And that is because in the first week of COVID, people got a flu-like illness. Then they thought they have become okay. And in the second week, they were slipping down and they were dying. They were suddenly deteriorating. They used to get into hypoxia called happy hypoxia, and they needed to do the pulse oximetry. So we started a 6-minute walk test. And if somebody desaturated, they had to be in the hospital. So I think the triaging, the screening, all that had to happen. So I think India has done extraordinarily well as a country in COVID. The only challenge is we were not able to enforce COVID appropriate behavior of masking, physical distancing, sanitization, and I think we were not able to maintain crowded clusters. So our numbers were very high. And because our numbers were very high, probably now retrospectively in hindsight, I have a feeling that in geographies like Dharavi, Cheetah Camp, there's already some amount of herd immunity because almost 70-80% of the population has antibodies on board. So that was the good thing. The bad thing is it hit economy hard. It hit our economy hard because the sudden disruption, people were not ready for it. And obviously it had its own, and also it completely killed the backbone of the private health infrastructure. The good thing was the private and public infrastructure had to cooperate because Disaster Management Act in place. There was a complete capping on charges. So obviously, whether it was private health care delivery or public healthcare delivery, there was a complete capping on the charges. And we evolved as protocol. So I think, Sam, India has done very well in terms of mortality. India has done very well in terms of testing capacity. India has done very well in terms of private-public partnership. India has not done well in COVID appropriate behavior. India has not done very well in terms of numbers of spread. And India has not done very well in public containment. I'm sure you are into the media industry. So, media industry did a lot of educational work, but at the same time, it had a very huge psychological impact, but also an economic impact. And I think people had to, like, for example, people thought newspapers spread COVID. That's not true at all. I mean, we all have our newspapers which we read, but it hit hard the industry. So I think initially, as in all pandemics, people had fear overruling. And the fear factor was much more than actually the facts. And whenever fears have overruled facts, whether it is a geography, country, or the state, or the earth, we have suffered. I think now facts are more and fear is less. However, we should not become reckless. I think that recklessness which got set in after a 9-month fatigue, that was a challenge. And I think that's something which we need to overcome. So there are 5 vital signs in COVID. First is temperature. If the temperature is high, yes, it is COVID. Second is respiratory rate. Okay, whether if the respiratory rate is fast, above 30, then again there is a challenge. Third is, of course, the pulse rate. If your heartbeat is very fast, then again you have a challenge. Okay. Fourth is the oxygen. If your oxygen saturation is coming down, then it is going to be a problem. If it is below 94%, or if there is a drop of 3%, and beyond that, fifth is glucose. If your random glucose, even if you're not a diabetic, but random glucose is high, then you have a problem. And last, the sixth sign is blood pressure. If your blood pressure is high, you have a challenge. If you do this simple triaging, we learned. So therapeutics went through a full U-turn. Okay, and a good sleep was very important. So in COVID again, sleeping from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock is very crucial, because we know that if you sleep between 10 to 11 at night, you make the right chemical called cytokines, which are useful for antiviral effect. If you sleep for a good 7 to 8 hours, you clear the virus faster. If you sleep less, so we told people, because in lockdown times, people were sleeping less, they were anxious, they were hooked on to their media channels, and they were just sleeping for 4 or 5 hours and they were eating. So we told them, sleep a little more, be a little better behaved, eat on time, eat slowly, eat the right food, then smile, do yoga. Yoga was so rejuvenating, because yoga is all about pranayama. So only 60%. See, COVID is simple. Nose COVID, throat COVID, lung COVID on oxygen, lung COVID on ventilators. So when I had to teach even the general practitioners, I told them, if it is nose COVID, usually it will recover. You will have lack of smell. If it is throat COVID, your taste may go, and usually you will recover. And don't allow it to go to the lungs. And keep doing good breathing exercises. Most nose, throat, and lung COVID recover on its own, whether you treat or you don't treat. It's only when you need oxygen, that is when the lung is exploding with chemicals, with thrombus, with clots. That's the time you need to be in the hospital, and doctors and the full array of the ICU team needs to take over. And then, of course, it can go on ventilator. So I think 80% of COVID can be managed, nose, throat, and lungs can be managed at home by good vigilance, by good education and confidence. Also remember, psychologically, you have to be very strong. Okay, it's all about how you handle your resilience. It's how you handle your mindset. Because if you have a right mindset, I've seen people recover. I've seen a 94-year-old adult man admitted at Leelavati. That's how I got into COVID. He had no diabetes. He had a borderline thyroid. Came to a casualty. We didn't know he had COVID. This 94-year-old gentleman. And he had glucose of 550. Was admitted to the ICU. In the ICU, they found that he had COVID. And he recovered. He's at home. So it's not impossible. You may not be having it's not that age is a barrier. It's a mindset. If you think that you're going to fight it out, you will fight it out. If you think that you're not going to do well, you will go down the hill. So I think we needed, so we actually took help of mental health experts like Dr. Harish Shetty and many others to do debriefing of our healthcare workers, of our doctors, and battle this fatigue. And that's why it's important to identify that COVID has three parts. First 9 days, actively replicating virus. That's the time it can spread to everybody. That's the time you need to hit hard, hit early. And that's the time you need to isolate, self-isolate, and contact all the people you are contacted with and treat appropriately. Part 2 is the inflammatory thrombotic part where there are clots and there's inflammation and it can damage the lungs. Look for your oxygen, lie prone on your chest and get oxygen, get medical care. And the part 3 is once you're recovered from part 1 and 2, it's the long COVID. In the long COVID, it's all about mindset, getting out of the psychological trauma, improving your energy levels and fatigue, and then ensuring that you don't get a heart or a neurological complication. And after 3 to 6 months, you get some antibodies. They last you for 6 months to 9 months, and then you're all ready for a vaccine. I think it should. To a large extent, it will. So you will have a global vaccination certificate. So to a great extent, if you look at the WHO norms, any vaccine which protects you more than 50% and is have efficacy more than 50% will protect. So it is likely it will protect. Okay. And if you know actually whether it is doing so, you can actually measure the neutralizing antibody. Thymus, children are having below 10 years an organ called thymus which involutes. So they have God's inbuilt vaccine called thymus, which clears up most viral particles. So it's rare to have children with a severe COVID, which is of course a very rare Kawasaki illness has been described, but it is rare to have children with severe illness. And children usually fight viral infections better because they have a gland above the thyroid called the thymus gland, which involutes between 8 to 12 years. And they have an inbuilt, in-house, natural thymus, which has lymphocytes, which clears out all types of viruses, including COVID viruses, which is why children can harbor the virus. They can get mild disease from the virus. They can spread the virus, but they're unlikely to get afflicted by the virus in moderate to severe ways, except a rare exception. And that is why right now the vaccinators have not focused on doing trials on children. They will do that modernized trial, starting a trial in the US. India is also starting a trial on lower ages. Currently, the cut points are 16 and 18. So we need to build good immunity, and we can't transplant thymus. Okay, thymus evolutes with age, but we have so many herbs which are nutraceuticals, right from turmeric, which can stimulate what a thymus can do. So this is the ideal time to research in immune nutraceuticals. That's what I research in. That's where I'm spending a lot of my lifetime work in. COVID allowed me to do some structured research in some of our old ancient systems of medicine. For example, I'm a big believer in yoga. If you do your neti right, if you do your dhavti right, if you do your pranayama right, your likelihood of handling COVID is far better. And it's worked very well in all my patients. I have and also people who didn't get COVID. Similarly, if you give them immune boosting chemicals and study them in a scientific way, it can do extraordinarily well. And that's something which has been observed and followed.
My question is largely on this herd immunity, antibodies, and there's a view which is coming up, people like Vedumani of Theoka and all are saying that people with antibodies should not rush to take vaccines. And therefore you measure, and you also mentioned it now that you have to check your antibody levels. But you also mentioned in your talk that antibodies only last 6 months, even if for people who have got COVID. So what is your view on what is actually meant by herd immunity? what is antibodies and how does it relate to vaccines?
So let me make it very clear. I think this is, Shiva, fantastic questions. First thing, that when you get the actual virus infection, you develop actual antibodies. These are IgG antibodies. These actually should be measured quantitatively. Most people are using semi-quantitative measures in the labs. And we need to measure the neutralizing antibodies, which are truly immunogenic. So which will neutralize the virus when the virus attacks. So just measuring the antibody in a general lab is not setting. However, having said that, what Dr. Velumani is alluding to is, if you have developed a critical threshold of an antibody at a high titer, which is stable, I would still give a vaccine so that I get a booster on it. If I have a failing antibody, I will still give a vaccine to get a booster on it. Now, the herd immunity definition changed. And one of our mentors in the US, Anthony Fauci, he initially started that 60% is good enough to get herd immunity. And he had changed his own goalpost to 70%, 75%, and 80%. I personally feel that anything above 70, 75% within Indian population, if you get the antibody levels in the population, okay, that's good enough to get herd immunity. And that's already happened. You see, there is no social distancing and no masking in some of these slum geographies of Mumbai. But we are only reporting 2-3 cases there. So we know that some degree of antibodies have happened. But it's just not the antibodies we decide. It is the type of antibodies, the neutralizing ability of that antibody, and the T cell immunity. See, ultimately, the protection comes from our T cells, which are unmeasured. So I have had people where the antibody levels are 0, but they have had no reinfection. Remember, reinfection also started occurring in rare cases. They have no reinfection because they have robust T cells. So actually, it's a conglomerate of our immune system. I think in general, Indians probably have a little better immune system. So the idea of the government is to actually first take the vulnerable group, which is 27 crores. And the people who are looking after that vulnerable group, which are the COVID frontline warriors and the doctors, and take care of them first. And I think that's a very wise approach. Yes. I think they have really, because people who are at the helm, like Dr. Paul, etc., who are at the Niti Aayog, they felt that this is the population to protect, at least some degree of protection offer them, and then go to level next. And that's how they are calibrating the response. Also, within the first 3 months of COVID, I may not take a vaccination, but after 3 months post-COVID, you are good to go for a vaccination. Now, ideally, if you tell me the vaccine should not be only administered in the first 10 days, which is a replicative part of the virus. After 10 days, you are good to take a vaccine and good to get a double boost. See, the vaccine single dose will work like a booster if your antibody levels are already high. So when you're taking with a high antibody another vaccine shot, maybe one shot is good enough. You may not need a second shot. That's what UK decided.
Just one question. What is the definition of herd immunity? That means those people have got antibodies because of COVID, or they already had immunity because of the higher level of...
No, it is because of exposure. So definition of herd immunity is, if you do sampling of the population, say I sample 1 lakh population of Dharavi, 80% of Dharavi population must have positive antibodies of IgG nature. Then I have achieved herd immunity. So that definition for each disease is set as a limit. So originally, when the thinking started in March, that definition was 60%, and a lot from New York Times, everybody wrote articles, including New England Journal of Medicine, stating that definition has moved to 75%, and that is my hypothesis. Tony Fauci feels at least you should have 80%. So anywhere between 70 to 80%, you need to have antibody positivity in the population.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Everybody stay safe and stay happy. It's all about happiness and safety.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.